Dear listeners, imagine for a moment that today we're embarking on a journey through a kind of map, not a geographical one, but a political one, a compass rose that reveals just how differently power, freedom and statehood can be arranged in our world. Today, I want to introduce you to such a political compass, using 4 exemplary cases that are as varied as the favourite dishes at an international food truck festival. In the first quadrant, left libertarian, we encounter a place that seems straight out of a utopian indie film, Rojava. Here, right in the conflict-ridden Middle East, a project was launched based on grassroots democratic ideas, self-governance and a strong sense of community. It's as if someone has set up a trendy loft in an alternative reality where equality and collective freedom come first, all without the usual bureaucratic fuss. Moving on to the quadrant of right libertarian visions, we have the example of Argentina under Javier Milei. Imagine a country suddenly infused with a brand of economic liberalism that feels like a wild road trip, radical privatizations, an ultra-minimal state, and a belief in the free market that shines as brilliantly as the gleam of a freshly polished sports car. That's exactly what Milei is advocating, inviting us, in a way, to think along less government, more individual freedom, and a market left to its own devices. Now let's shift into the realm of left authoritarian systems. Here, North Korea stands as a prime example, a country that feels like a dark, futuristic drama where the state holds all the reins. Under the ideology of Juche, an attempt is made to guarantee every citizen a state-planned basic provision. On paper, it almost sounds like an ideal welfare model, doesn't it? Yet, in reality, significant shortcomings emerge: resource scarcity, a society where only the innermost circles of the regime enjoy privileges, and a daily life that often feels more dystopian than utopian. Last but not least, in the quadrant of right authoritarian systems, we have Saudi-Arabia. This country presents itself as a fascinating paradox. On one hand, an absolutely capitalist economy that flourishes like a gleaming storefront, and on the other, a state that governs with a strict conservative hand. The blend of luxurious wealth for the elite and authoritarian control in everyday life makes Saudi Arabia an impressive example of how economic progress and authoritarian structures can go hand in hand. So, my friends, have you now received a little travel guide through the 4 quadrants of the political compass? I invite you to pause for a moment and reflect: which of these 4 paths appeals to you the most? Are you inspired by the vision of collective self-governance, a la Rojava, or does the free, almost anarchic spirit of a right libertarian Argentina excite you? Perhaps you find yourself drawn to the tightly controlled, albeit often dysfunctional, systems of left authoritarian North Korea, or are fascinated by the mix of economic brilliance and strict control in Saudi Arabia. Your opinion counts. Decide which quadrant you favour. But before we conclude, let's take a look at 2 often discussed examples that are never far from our everyday lives: Germany and the USA. Let's start with Germany. Here we experience what is known as the social market economy, a balancing act that strives to harmonize capitalism with state welfare. Some analysts tend to place Germany in the left libertarian quadrant because the welfare state and strong worker protections take center stage. Others, however, see authoritarian tendencies in certain security and integration policies, placing Germany closer to the right authoritarian spectrum. In the past, especially during the Merkel era, Germany often occupied a centrist position, while the future may hold even more exciting, ambivalent developments. And what about the USA? The USA is often presented as the quintessential example of right libertarian values, a free market, entrepreneurial freedom, and a strong belief in individual self-determination. Yet time and again, we see that in some political rhetoric, whether in national security debates or populist trends, authoritarian elements also emerge. We've witnessed phases in the past where the USA appeared decidedly more libertarian, and others where authoritarian currents were more dominant. How it will develop in the future remains an exciting question. Perhaps an evolution toward an even freer market model, or maybe a return to more state control. Ladies and gentlemen, these four exemplary systems, Rojava, Argentina under Milei, North Korea and Saudi Arabia, show us how diverse political realities can be. They, like Germany and the USA, are complex and defy being squeezed into a rigid framework. Every classification depends on perspective, on which aspects are emphasized, and on personal ideology. I encourage you to think over these concepts and form your own opinion. Which quadrant aligns with your vision of society, freedom and order? Perhaps you'll discover that certain elements resonate with you more than others, and that's perfectly okay. Let's open up the dialogue and exchange perspectives, because at the end of the day, whether we find ourselves in liberal realms or authoritarian zones, it's crucial to understand the multifaceted nature of our world and to question where we stand and where we want to go. Thank you for listening, and remember, your opinion shapes the future.
Ob wir uns nun in den liberalen Gefilden oder in den autoritären Zonen wiederfinden. Wir verstehen, wie vielschichtig unsere Welt ist und wie wichtig es ist, kritisch zu hinterfragen, wo wir stehen und wohin wir wollen. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören und denkt dran, eure Meinung formt die Zukunft.